Hey, my name's Luc Briedé-Cooper. I'm a life coach and leader person, someone based up here in Vancouver, Canada. And I'm one of Katie's clients. I've been working with her for a few months now, and it's been amazing. Before I was working with Katie, I was very much an overthinker, like getting stuck in my head, distracted by thoughts, and buying into these like weird limiting beliefs that I had about myself. So with Katie, she guided me through different exercises, thinking about my vision, clarifying my ideals, and digging into these limiting beliefs to help kind of understand what's going on. But most importantly, she kept bringing me back to the idea that nothing is wrong with me, that I'm okay. And that's very empowering, and it was very powerful. So Katie would point me to different ways that I could carry myself when I was like stuck in my own little world. More specifically, for my particular case, like she pointed to and showed me that I could be living a more intuitive life, that I could tap into the power of intention, which I had already been doing but wasn't aware of it, instead of getting stuck in like this mindset of like micromanaging my actions, you could say. So the sessions with her were super refreshing. She has this magical, almost magical, uncanny ability to simplify things when it seems really complicated to me. It's like, oh, yeah, right. Yeah, that makes sense. What was I even thinking before? I'm someone who, I like to think I'm committed to having a positive mindset, or you could say like aligning myself with higher principles, however you want to describe it. And Katie was super powerful for reminding me of those principles, and when I'm drifting away from it, like even just being in the same room with her awesome mindset will just like rub off on you. You wouldn't even have to talk. You could just like sit next to each other. Like that's kind of a weird idea, but like there's something about that that's true. Like just being around her is really awesome. On top of all this other like very, very powerful and very practical things. So I'm a coach myself, and there's this idea in coaching called unconditional positive regard. And what it means is basically like believing that your client is okay. And I knew that before because I had read about it and learning about being a coach, but it wasn't until working with Katie when I realized just how powerful that is. So she helped me in my own coaching practice. So an example of that, for example, is she would never shame me. If we ended a session and I had committed to doing something before the next session, but let's say I changed my mind or wanted to do something different, part of me was thinking like, oh no, I didn't do the thing as I said I would. Is she gonna shame me? Like what's gonna happen, right? And this was a real part of me that thought that. And then when I come to the next session, I'm like, so I said I was gonna do this, but ended up doing this. And so she was thinking, wow, that's awesome. She like embodied the principle that I'm the expert of my life and that nothing's wrong with me. And if my intuition is pointing me in the direction that I want to go in, then that's the right direction to go in. It's very much like I set the frame, I'm empowered to decide what we're going to talk about, what we're going to do. And it's just super empowering just having those conversations with her. So another thing that changed from working with Katie is I've been doing a number of different things in my life, different projects, you could say. But from getting clear on my vision and kind of diving into the purpose behind them, I realized how I could align them. And since I've aligned these different areas and their purpose and my intentions behind them, like it's been crazy how much more effective I've been. Like now I'm doing like 14-hour days, like working harder than I ever have before, which is crazy because I've never done that before. And it's energizing and it's powerful. So like, it's crazy. It's awesome. It's so good. So I can share one piece of insight that I learned or that I discovered, I guess, with Katie a few weeks ago. And it was when I was thinking about coaching and what it meant to be a coach and the roles and expectations. This was around the conversation where I aligned them. And I wasn't sure like if I should like change up what I do because coaching is supposed to be like this. And I was thinking and talking, what about this, what about that, and how do they relate, and blah, blah, blah. But she just brought me back to the idea that I can be and do and create whatever I want. and I don't need anyone's permission to be how I want to be in the world. That was extremely powerful. I actually remember the moment I was sitting in a chair right there. We do online Zoom calls. I'll mention that in a moment. And like I was sitting in the chair and she said that, and my mind, I just felt it click. I'm like, oh, of course. I already knew that, right? But I wasn't aware of it in the moment. And she brought me back to that. And that was crazy. That was super powerful. So I mentioned we did online Zoom calls for our sessions. We also did in-person ones at different points. And I actually found I preferred the online ones. And that's because like I could be in my space. I could be at my home. And I found when I was, like literally in my room for these calls, like it was easier for me to access kind of how I'm feeling about things. And the sessions were maybe a bit more powerful because of that. So I mentioned right now I'm in a period of intense action, and like life's good. It's crazy and I love it. So I highly recommend Katie. If you have the opportunity to work with her, if you get to work with her, it's going to be awesome, man. You're going to have an awesome time. In the end, what I have to say is Katie's a motherfucking boss. She's a boss. So if you get to work with her, that's awesome. I got to work with her. I'm going to keep working with her. It's amazing. So thank you. My name's Luke. Cheers.